What if a sunny park day turned into a showdown that could flip an entire city upside down? Picture this: a chill afternoon in Portland, Oregon, where a guy just trying to read his book gets targeted by a cop with a grudge bigger than a food truck burrito. This Mystic Life Stories saga serves mystery spicier than a vegan taco cart, drama hotter than a Stumptown coffee, and a justice fight that'll have you laughing, cheering, and ready to rewrite the system. Where are you tuning in from? Drop your city in the comments, and if you're all about stories that mix suspense with a sassy wink, smash that subscribe button for Mystic Life Stories. Let's dive into a park where one man's about to turn the tables. Waterfront Park in Portland, Oregon was popping on a sunny afternoon, the Willamette River sparkling like it knew it was Instagram-worthy. Joggers zipped by, food trucks slung bao buns and kombucha, and kids chased bubbles under the cherry blossoms. On a bench, Jamal Carter, a black man in his 30s, sat reading a dog-eared copy of Invisible Man, his calm vibe screaming, "I'm just here for the plot." But trouble was brewing faster than a hipster's cold brew. Officer Derek Walsh, a patrol cop with a chip on his shoulder and a squint saying, "I smell trouble," clocked Jamal from across the park. To Walsh, a black guy with a book was about as suspicious as a vegan at a butcher shop. He swaggered over, his hand hovering near his belt like he was auditioning for a cop flick, and started grilling Jamal. "What are you doing here? Got ID?" he barked, his voice dripping with prejudice like Jamal's very existence was a crime scene. Jamal didn't flinch, his eyes superb as a Portland drizzle. "Reading, officer. Public park last I checked," he said, his tone polite but sharp, like a knife wrapped in velvet. Walsh's face twitched, not used to pushback that didn't come with a fight. What did Walsh not know? Jamal was slyly recording the whole thing on his phone, a trick he'd picked up after years of random stops, his thumb discreetly hitting a record like a pro. The camera caught every sneer, every loaded word hinting at a mind sharper than a barista's latte art. Across the park, at a cafe with a view, Jamal's sister Tanya Carter, a lawyer with a glare that could stop traffic, sipped her espresso and clocked the scene. Her eyes narrowed, her phone out, fingers hovering over her legal contacts. "Not today, Derek," she muttered, smelling trouble like a bloodhound. The park's chill vibe was gone, replaced by a standoff hotter than a food truck grill. Walsh thought he was the hunter, but Jamal played chess while stuck on checkers, and Portland was about to get a wake-up call. So what happens when a cop with a grudge the size of a Portland food truck picks a fight with a guy who's got the smarts to outwit him without breaking a sweat? Jamal Carter's just trying to enjoy his book in Waterfront Park, but Officer Derek Walsh turns a sunny day into a showdown hotter than a habanero kombucha. With Jamal secretly recording the whole mess, this Mystic Life Stories saga is dishing suspense stickier than a vegan donut glaze, drama spicier than a food cart curry, and a justice vibe that'll have you laughing and cheering for the underdog. Got a story where you kept your cool under pressure? Drop it in the comments, and if you're loving this mix of grit and sass, smash that subscribe button for Mystic Life Stories. Let's see how Jamal plays this high-stakes game. The Waterfront Park in Portland, Oregon, was buzzing like a hipster farmer's market, with joggers weaving through cherry blossom petals and food trucks slinging everything from kimchi tacos to lavender lemonade. Jamal Carter sat on his bench, his nose buried in Invisible Man, his calm vibe starkly contrasting to the storm brewing around him. Officer Derek Walsh, chest puffed like he was starring in a bad cop drama, loomed over him, his questions coming faster and uglier. "You live around here? Why you just sitting? Got any priors?" he snapped, his voice dripping with prejudice, like Jamal's book was a smoking gun. Jamal's eyes flicked up, cool as a Willamette River breeze. "I'm reading, officer. It's a park, not a crime scene," he he said, his tone polite but edged with a "don't try me" sharpness that made Walsh's jaw twitch. The crowd nearby, dog walkers, yoga moms, started glancing over, sensing the vibe shift, but Jamal kept his cool, his thumb discreetly ensuring his phone was still recording every biased word. Not used to a black man who didn't flinch, Walsh doubled down, his face reddening like a sunburned tourist. "Don't get smart with me," he barked, stepping closer, his hand hovering near his cuffs like he was itching for a fight. "You're loitering with intent, pal." ID. Now Jamal handed over his wallet, slow and deliberate, his eyes locked on Walsh's like he was reading his soul. "Intent to read, maybe," he quipped, his voice dry as a Portland IPA, earning a stifled chuckle from a nearby barista. Walsh's frustration boiled over. Here was a guy defying his script, staying cooler than a vegan ice cream truck. In a flustered fumble, Walsh reached for his notepad to jot a citation, but it slipped from his hand, hitting the ground like a plot twist. Pages fluttered, revealing a handwritten list labeled "Suspicious Profiles, Black Latino Males, Waterfront Park." Jamal's eyes caught it, his face unreadable, but his phone captured the damning evidence, a jackpot that could flip this whole scene. He stayed silent, his strategic mind humming like a chess master mid-game. The crowd was growing, phones out, some filming, others whispering, "What's this guy's deal?" Oblivious to his notepad blunder, Walsh snatched it up, his ears pink as he tried to regain control. "You're coming with me," he growled, slapping cuffs on Jamal's wrists with a clang that echoed like a bad decision. "Resisting arrest, that's what this is." Jamal didn't resist, his calm unshaken, but his eyes glinted with, "You just messed up, buddy." The cuffs were tight, but his smirk was tighter, a silent promise this wasn't over. Across the park, Tanya Carter, Jamal's sister and a lawyer sharper than a switchblade, leapt from her cafe seat, her espresso abandoned. "Oh, hell no," she muttered, her phone already dialing her legal squad, her heels clicking like a war drum as she tailed the cop car hauling Jamal to the precinct. The park's chill was replaced by a showdown that felt like a Portland protest brewing. Locals were tweeting, hashtags like #waterfront bias popping off, and Jamal's recording was a ticking time bomb. The precinct loomed ahead, a gray slab of bureaucracy, but Jamal wasn't fazed. His phone, still rolling in his pocket, was catching every second of Walsh's meltdown, from the profiling list to the bogus arrest. Tanya was hot on their trail, her legal contacts buzzing like a hive, ready to turn this into a civil rights firestorm. Walsh thought he was winning, his cuffs a power trip, but he'd just stepped into a trap slicker than a Portland rain puddle. The crowd at Waterfront Park was still filming, their videos spreading like wildfire, and whispers of "that list" were already hitting group chats. Jamal's sister, Tanya, was no bystander. She was a legal hurricane, and Walsh was about to get swept away. The cherry blossoms fluttered, the food trucks hummed, but the real heat was in the precinct, where Jamal's calm was about to unleash a storm that'd shake Portland to its core. What do you do when a cop's power trip crashes into a truth so big it could set a city on fire? Jamal Carter's been hauled to a Portland precinct in cuffs, but this isn't the end. It's the moment he flips the script on Officer Derek Walsh's biased blunder. With a secret recording and a profiling list already stirring trouble, this Mystic Life Stories saga is cooking up suspense thicker than a food truck ramen broth, drama hotter than a Rose City summer, and a justice showdown that'll have you laughing and cheering like you're at a Blazers game. Ever seen someone's ego get dunked on by the truth? Slam it in the comments. And if you're loving this brew of mystery and sass, hit that subscribe button for Mystic Life Stories. Let's watch Jamal drop the mic. The Portland precinct was a buzzing hive of fluorescent lights and stale coffee, the air thick with the hum of radios and the clack of keyboards. Jamal Carter sat in an interrogation room, his hoodie sagging but his spine straight, his calm demeanor contrasting with the chaos he'd sparked. Still puffed up from his waterfront park power trip, Officer Derek Walsh leaned against the wall, smirking like he'd bagged a trophy. "You're in deep now, pal," he sneered, oblivious to the storm brewing outside. Jamal's wrists were cuffed, but his eyes glinted with the calm confidence of a chess master who'd just set up checkmate. His phone, confiscated but still holding the recording of Walsh's biased rant and the dropped profiling list, was a ticking bomb. Across town, Jamal's lawyer sister Tanya Carter stormed through the precinct doors, her heels clicking like a countdown, her phone buzzing with texts from legal allies ready to turn this into a civil rights earthquake. The room's tension snapped when Captain Ellen Ramsey, a no-nonsense veteran with a glare sharper than a Portland craft knife, burst in. "What's this nonsense?" she barked, snatching Jamal's ID from Walsh's file. Her eyes scanned it, then widened like she'd just seen a UFO land in Pioneer Square. "Special Agent Carter, FBI counterterrorism." The words hit like a thunderclap, the room going pin-drop silent. Walsh's smirk vanished faster than a food cart's last bao bun, his face paling to the shade of a vegan milkshake. "FBI," he stammered, his bravado crumbling like a stale hipster scone. Ramsey's glare could have melted steel. "Uncuff him, now!" she ordered, her voice a guillotine. Walsh fumbled with the cuffs, his hands shaking as Jamal rubbed his wrists, his calm unbroken, a faint smirk tugging at his lips like he'd known this was coming. The precinct's hum faltered, officers peeking in, sensing a career-ending fumble. Then came the bombshell that turned the standoff into a citywide inferno. Jamal's phone recording, auto-uploaded to a secure FBI server during the arrest, had been intercepted by a whistleblower in the bureau. A rogue analyst fed up with precinct corruption. The analyst leaked it to the Portland press, and within hours, the clip went viral, spreading faster than a PDX foodie hashtag. The video, Walsh's biased grilling, the profiling list flapping in the park breeze, was plastered across local news, Twitter, and Reddit, with headlines screaming, "Portland cop caught profiling FBI agent." A media frenzy erupted outside the precinct, reporters swarming like seagulls at a food truck rally, shouting, "Officer Walsh, what's the suspicious profiles list?" And, "Is this systemic?" Walsh's face was now a full-on tomato, his career toastier than a food cart grill. He slumped against the wall, the weight of his blunder hitting like a ton of artisanal bricks. The gallery of officers was stunned, some whispering, "He's FBI?" Others eyeing Walsh like he'd just tanked their PR. Tanya burst into the room, her lawyer's glare locked on Walsh. "You're done, Derek," she said, her voice slicing like a switchblade, already drafting a civil rights complaint that'd make headlines. Jamal stood, brushing off his hoodie, his eyes meeting Tanya's in a silent, "We got this" nod. Ramsey turned to Jamal, her tone a mix of respect and regret. "Agent Carter, I'm sorry. This shouldn't have happened." Jamal's response was superb as a Portland drizzle. "It happens too often, Captain. Let's make sure it stops." His words landed like a gauntlet, a challenge to the system that had tried to break him. The precinct's fluorescent buzz felt dimmer, the media storm outside growing louder, hashtags like "Number Justice for Jamal" trending as Portlanders rallied. The climax was electric, the room a pressure cooker of exposed truth and shattered egos. Walsh's profiling list, now public, was a smoking gun, tying his actions to a precinct pattern that had been hushed up for years. Jamal's recording wasn't just evidence. It was a spark, igniting a firestorm of demands for reform. Tanya's legal team was already circling, ready to sue the city into next week, while the crowd outside chanted, "No more bias." The cherry blossoms of Waterfront Park seemed a world away, but Jamal's calm was a beacon, his strategic play turning a park bench into a battleground for justice. The corrupt official linked to the profiling scheme was still out there, a shadow Ramsey was itching to chase. Jamal had flipped the script for now, and Portland was waking up to a truth that'd shake its foundations. What happens when a viral video exposes a cop's prejudice and sets a city ablaze with demands for justice? Jamal Carter's showdown in Portland's Waterfront Park has flipped the script, revealing him as an FBI agent and leaving Officer Derek Walsh's career in ashes. But the fight's not over. This Mystic Life Stories saga is serving suspense stickier than a Portland food truck's maple syrup, drama juicier than a fresh squeezed kombucha, and a justice chase that'll have you laughing through the outrage. Ever seen someone face the music for their mistakes? Drop it in the comments, and if you're hooked on this blend of grit and sass, smash that subscribe button for Mystic Life Stories. Let's see how the fallout shakes Portland to its core. The Portland precinct was a storm of chaos, the fluorescent lights buzzing like a swarm of angry bees. Jamal Carter stood outside the interrogation room, his hoodie still sagging, but his presence towering, a calm giant amidst the whirlwind he'd unleashed. His phone recording, capturing Officer Derek Walsh's biased rant and the damning suspicious profiles list, had gone viral thanks to a whistleblower's leak to the press. News vans clogged the streets outside, reporters shouting over each other like seagulls fighting for a food cart fry, their cameras flashing as hashtags like #Justice for Jamal and #Portland Profiling trended nationwide. Walsh, once strutting like a wannabe action hero, was now a ghost of himself, holed up in a back office, his face paler than a vegan cheese wheel. The precinct's usual hum was drowned out by ringing phones and Captain Ellen Ramsey's sharp orders, her no-nonsense vibe cutting through the mess like a machete through bamboo. The internal investigation hit Walsh like a freight train. Jamal's recording, backed by park witness statements and grainy bystander videos, was a slam dunk, painting a neon sign over Walsh's prejudice. The profiling list, targeting Black and Latino men, was the nail in his coffin, exposing a precinct pattern that had locals fuming. Ramsey grilled Walsh in a closed-door session, her jaw tight as a bike lock, his stammered excuses falling flat like a stormy open mic night. "I was just doing my job," he mumbled, but the evidence was louder than a Portland protest chant. Off-duty officers whispered in the halls, some defensive, others shaken, as the media storm grew, with outlets like The Oregonian blasting headlines, "Portland cops profiling list sparks outrage." Walsh's guilt was creeping in, his mirror reflecting a man he didn't recognize, his biases laid bare like a spilt latte on a white shirt. For the first time, he was questioning himself, but the clock was ticking on his badge. Jamal, meanwhile, was a beacon of grace under pressure. Fresh from his release, he met with Ramsey in her office, the city skyline glinting through the window like a promise of change. "This isn't just about me," he said, his voice steady as a Willamette current. "It's about every kid who gets stopped for breathing while Black." Ramsey nodded, her respect clear, and pitched a plan. Anti-bias training, stricter oversight, and Jamal as a consultant to keep it real. Jamal agreed, his FBI cool masking a fire to fix a system that had failed too many. Outside, Tanya Carter, his lawyer sister, was a legal hurricane, pushing for a citywide audit of police practices. "This precinct's getting a colonoscopy," she quipped to a reporter, her smirk sharp as a switchblade, her civil rights complaint already making City Hall sweat. Portlanders rallied, turning Waterfront Park into a vigil site. candles flickering as locals chanted, "No more lists!" The park's cherry blossoms seemed to nod, their petals a quiet cheer for justice. The fallout was seismic, but it wasn't just about Walsh. The profiling list pointed to a deeper rot, with whispers of a corrupt official pulling strings behind the precinct's shady practices. Ramsey's team was digging, but the trail was colder than a Portland winter. Walsh, facing suspension pending the investigation, sat alone in his apartment, replaying the park scene, his ego deflated like a punctured bike tire. "How'd I get here?" he muttered, his remorse real but late, like a food truck running out of bao buns at lunch rush. He'd always seen himself as the good guy, but Jamal's calm and viral video cracked his worldview like a dropped mason jar. The media kept the pressure on with op-eds calling for reform and locals tweeting number-end profiling, their voices a chorus that wouldn't quit. After the meeting, Jamal and Tanya walked through Waterfront Park, where the river was sparkling under the setting sun. "You played that like a pro," Tanya said, her lawyer's swagger softened by pride. Jamal shrugged, his smirk faint. "Just doing what we do, sis." Their bond was a rock, forged in years of fighting battles like this, from schoolyard bullies to courtroom brawls. The park was quieter now, but the vigil candles still burned, a sign Portland was waking up. Walsh's fate hung in the balance, his investigation a ticking clock. But Jamal's focus was bigger, reform, not revenge. The corrupt official's shadow loomed, a mystery Ramsey was chasing, and Jamal knew this was just round one. The city's skyline glowed, a canvas of change, and Jamal's calm was a spark, ready to ignite a fire that had burned through Portland's biases. What happens when one man's stand against prejudice sparks a citywide reckoning that could reshape justice? Jamal Carter's viral takedown of Officer Derek Walsh in Portland's Waterfront Park has exposed a rotten system. The fallout is hitting harder than a food truck's spiciest bao bun. With the truth out and the community roaring, this Mystic Life Stories saga is dishing suspense thicker than a Portland fog, drama juicier than a food cart's poke bowl, and a justice vibe that'll have you laughing and cheering through the change. Ever seen a single spark ignite a revolution? Drop it in the comments, and if you're all in for this mix of heart and sass, smash that subscribe button for Mystic Life Stories. Let's see how Portland rises from the ashes. The Portland precinct was still reeling, its halls buzzing like a farmer's market on overdrive, weeks after Jamal Carter's showdown turned Officer Derek Walsh's career into a cautionary tale. The internal investigation had wrapped, and the verdict was a guillotine. Walsh was fired, his badge yanked after Jamal's viral recording, the profiling list, and witness videos painted a neon sign over his prejudice. Walsh slunk out of the precinct, head bowed like a hipster who'd just spilt his artisanal latte, his exit a symbol of consequences for a system that had let bias fester too long. The media frenzy was unrelenting, with the Oregonians splashing headlines like "Portland cop sacked in profiling scandal" and local blogs buzzing with numbered justice for Jamal posts. Waterfront Park, once the scene of Walsh's blunder, was now a rallying point, its cherry blossoms framing candlelit vigils that turned into marches, Portlanders chanting, "No more lists, no more lies." The city's pulse was electric, like a protest song strummed on a banjo, a mix of anger and hope. Captain Ellen Ramsey, her no-nonsense grit sharper than a bike chain, wasn't about to let the moment slip. Inspired by Jamal's calm and Tanya Carter's legal fire, she rolled out sweeping reforms, mandatory anti-bias training, body cam audits, and a community oversight board to keep the precinct honest. Ever the strategist, Jamal signed on as a consultant, his FBI cool bringing street-level truth to the training room. "This isn't about one bad cop," he told a packed precinct workshop, his voice steady as the Willamette. "It's about a system that lets bad calls slide." Officers nodded, some sheepish, others fired up. As Ramsey watched, her respect for Jamal clear as a Portland sunrise. Tanya, meanwhile, was a legal whirlwind, her civil rights complaint sparking a citywide review of police practices. "We're cleaning house," she quipped to a reporter, her smirk as sharp as a food truck's kimchi, her audit demands making City Hall squirm like a vegan at a butcher's counter. Portland's community was a force, transforming outrage into action. Vigils at Waterfront Park grew into marches that snaked downtown, locals waving signs reading "End Profiling Now" and "Jamal's Truth." Food trucks donated proceeds to reform groups, and coffee shops hosted forums where residents swapped stories of their park stops. The cherry blossoms seemed to cheer, their petals carpeting the park like confetti for a new era. Jamal's leadership was quiet but seismic, his calm a beacon for a city ready to rethink justice. He and Tanya walked the park's paths, their sibling bond a rock amid the storm. "You stirred the pot, bro," Tanya said, nudging him, her lawyer swagger softened by pride. Jamal chuckled, his eyes scanning the vigil candles. "Somebody had to," he said, his voice low but fierce, like a drumbeat in a protest chant. Their family strength was a lighthouse, guiding Portland through the fog of change. Walsh's firing wasn't the end. It was a beginning. The profiling list had cracked open a deeper wound, with whispers of a corrupt official tied to the precinct's shady practices still at large. Ramsey's team chased leads, but the trail was slippery like a Portland rain puddle. The media kept the heat on, with op-eds calling for systemic overhaul and locals tweeting number Portland reform, their voices a chorus that echoed beyond the city. Jamal's viral recording, now a rallying cry, was studied in law schools as a case study in how one moment could shift a city's soul. The precinct's new training sessions were packed, officers grappling with their own biases, some inspired by Jamal's grace, others spooked by Walsh's fate. The community's marches grew, with kids and grandparents chanting for fairness, their candles glowing like stars against the Willamette's shimmer. The resolution was a bittersweet triumph. Walsh's badge was gone, but the system's scars ran deep, and Jamal knew reform was a marathon, not a sprint. He stood at Waterfront Park, the river glinting under the moon, Tanya by his side. "We did good, sis," he said, his smirk faint but warm. Tanya grinned, her legal notepad tucked away. "We're just getting started." The park's food trucks hummed, the cherry blossoms swayed, and Portland's skyline glowed, a canvas of change painted by one man's stand. The corrupt official's shadow lingered, a mystery for another day, but Jamal's spark had lit a fire, and Portland was ready to burn bright for justice. What if one man's courage could turn a city's scars into a blueprint for a fairer future? Jamal Carter's stand against prejudice in Portland's Waterfront Park has toppled a biased cop and sparked a movement. However, the shadow of corruption still looms like a fog over the Willamette. This mystic life story saga wraps with suspense thicker than a food truck's artisanal jam, drama richer than a Stumptown espresso, and a hope that'll make you laugh, cry, and rally for justice. Ever seen a spark of change light up your world? Drop it in the comments, and if you're all in for this blend of heart and sass, smash that subscribe button for Mystic Life Stories. Let's see how Portland's fight for fairness blooms. Months after the storm that shook the Portland precinct, Waterfront Park was alive with spring's promise, cherry blossoms raining petals like confetti for a new dawn. Jamal Carter strolled the paths, his hoodie swapped for a blazer, his calm vibe still a beacon in the city's pulse. Once a battleground where Officer Derek Walsh's bias met its match, the park now hosted community forums and vigils, locals swapping stories under the glow of solar lanterns. The precinct, under Captain Ellen Ramsey's iron grip, had rolled out anti-bias workshops, with officers dissecting Jamal's viral recording like it was a playbook for reform. Community boards met weekly, Portlanders from baristas to retirees, ensuring the suspicious profiles list was a relic of the past. Jamal, a quiet hero despite shunning the spotlight, was a regular at these forums, his FBI cool tempered by a warmth that made folks listen. "It's not about pointing fingers," he told a packed park crowd, his voice steady as the river. "It's about building better." The city was changing, and its skyline was aglow with possibility. Jamal's lawyer sister, Tanya Carter, had turned her civil rights complaint into a citywide audit, her legal swagger making headlines as precincts across Oregon scrambled to clean house. "We're not stopping at Portland," she quipped to a news crew, her smirk sharp as a vegan knife, her advocacy sparking state-level talks on police reform. The park's food trucks, now staples at reform rallies, donated proceeds to youth programs, while coffee shops buzzed with forums on equity. Hashtags like "Was Portland Reform" and "Jamal's Truth" still trended, with the Oregonian praising the Carter effect for galvanizing a city. Locals, from hipsters to grandmas, marched monthly, their signs reading "Fairness Now" as cherry blossoms swirled, a quiet nod to the fight Jamal had ignited. Then came a moment that sealed the story's heart. On a park bench, Jamal spotted Derek Walsh, jobless and humbled, his once puffed chest slumped like a deflated bike tire. No longer in uniform, Walsh looked like a man wrestling ghosts, his eyes heavy with the weight of his firing. Jamal approached, his calm unshaken, and sat beside him. "Rough road, huh?" he said, his tone soft but direct, like a friend offering a hard truth. Walsh nodded, his voice low. "I screwed up, Carter. Didn't see it then." Jamal leaned back, his gaze on the river. "Learn from it, Derek. Find your way forward." The words were forgiveness wrapped in a challenge, a spark of hope in Walsh's storm. Walsh's eyes flickered, a hint of redemption stirring, like a seed taking root in rocky soil. He stood, gave a quiet nod, and walked away, the park's lanterns casting his shadow long but lighter. The story closed with Portland's skyline shimmering, a canvas of change painted by one man's stand. Jamal and Tanya walked the park's paths, their sibling bond a lighthouse in the city's transformation. "You're a troublemaker, you know," Tanya teased, nudging him, her legal notepad tucked away. Jamal chuckled, his smirk warm. "Takes one to know one, sis." Their laughter echoed, a testament to family strength that had carried them through. The vigils continued, candles glowing like stars, as locals vowed to keep the pressure on. The corrupt official tied to the profiling list remained a ghost, with Ramsey's team chasing leads that hinted at a wider network. Was he watching? Plotting? The question lingered, a mystery for another day, but Portland was ready, its heart forged in Jamal's fire. Dr. Maya Ellison, a civil rights scholar, weighs in. Jamal's courage and Tanya's advocacy show how one incident can expose systemic rot. Portland's reforms are a start, but dismantling bias requires relentless community action rooted in love and accountability. But here's the punchline that'll leave you reeling. A month after Walsh's firing, a leaked memo surfaced, tying the corrupt official to a statewide network of precincts using profiling lists with encrypted orders to keep the parks clean. The kicker? The official vanished, leaving a taunting note. The game's still on. Is he out there, pulling strings? Share Jamal's story to fuel change. Every voice counts. Comment: how can we end profiling in our communities? Subscribe to Mystic Life Stories for more tales that inspire, challenge, and ignite justice. Let's keep Portland's fire burning.